All right, guys. This film is directed by Dan O'Bannon. It's a Hamdell Film Corporations presents Return of the Living Dead. I've been waiting to do this for a very, very, very long time. I'm excited. Let's get this. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go insane. You guys get ready. So I'm gonna do my review of Return of the Living Dead. Our review. All right, let's jump into it. We got Colonel Glover. He lives in a mansion. He lives with his wife. He's complaining to his wife that he needs to find some barrels. Colonel Glover is part of the army. He's a higher up. He is responsible for looking for army barrels, or they call them drums in here. So he's complaining about it. Next, we're gonna go to Louisville, Kentucky, where we have Frank, Freddie, and Bert Wilson. Now Frank is teaching Frank and Bert are older gentlemen, and Frank is gonna teach Freddie, a young adult. He's gonna teach him the ropes around a medical supply warehouse. Show him the ropes. Show him everything. Bert is the owner. Bert Wilson is the owner. He's gonna take off, and and so now we got Frank showing Freddie the ropes, showing him everything in the medical supply warehouse, from crutches to toilet seats, all this stuff. Even showing a half dog that they use for veterinary school, and he's showing them also. There's like this freezer that has this cadaver, a dead body that they use for ballistic testing, something like that. Now, Frank is gonna go with Freddie. They're gonna go to Frank's office, and Frank's like, okay, we're done. I'm done showing you around here. Then we show you how to do the paperwork. They go into Frank's office. Frank starts telling Freddie about a story, because I think Freddie asked, what's the weirdest thing you saw around here? Frank starts telling Freddie this story that in some army base or laboratories or something like that, he's like, have you seen Night of the Living Dead? Freddie's like, yeah, that's where zombies are taking over the whole world. And Frank tells him, well, this stuff got all over these dead bodies, and they started moving, start reanimating these bodies. And Frank's like, do you want to go see him? And Freddy's like, what? See what? He's like, the corpses. So Frank takes Freddy down to the medical supply warehouse. He takes him to the basement. He shows Freddy the barrels of drums, and they have bodies inside them. And Freddy's like, are these things safe? And then Frank says, this is the best. This is the best of army engineering. He slams one of the barrels or drums, and this chemical starts coming out and knocks out Freddy and Frank. And here we go. Now we're gonna have these punks. They're gonna be walking around Louisville. There's about 5 or 6 of them. You got Trash. You got the girls are Trash. You got Casey. You got Tina. You got Spider. You got Scuzz. And you got Chuck. They're walking around Louisville looking for a place to party. And Casey goes, let's go. Tina's like, I need to go look at see my boyfriend Freddie that we talked about earlier, that's knocked out right now by the chemical gas. That's twitching right now over there at the medical supply house. Tina's like, I gotta go pick up Freddie, my friend. Oh, Casey's like, well, let's go get Freddie together. Freddie always knows a place where to party. So these punks are all gonna decide to go track down Freddie. Now we're gonna go back to Frank and Freddie. They were twitching on the ground when we last saw them. They wake up. They were knocked out for a while. They close. They're there. They see that the body is missing. There's a dead body moving around there at the medical supply warehouse. They do these things. They're panicking. Frank is spraying lice all over the place. Then they see some butterflies in a billboard that were supposed to be dead, so to say, or not moving. They are fluttering around. They hear a dog. They're like, Freddy's like, listen. They hear a dog, and it's the dead vegetarian. Vegetarian. I'm sorry. It's like the half dog that they use for veterinary school for veterinarians to learn. It's moving. The tongue's moving, and the feet are moving. Frank starts tripping out. He gets crazy. Gets a crutch and starts hitting the dog. Um, and they're panicking and everything, and they notice that the locker, good thing it's locked. The dead body, remember that was in the cadaver. They know it's moving. That's the only thing that was in there. It starts it starts hitting the door, and good thing the lock is locked. They go lock it. They make it's half locked. You can't get out, but they go lock it up to make sure, for good measure, he doesn't get out. Now, so they're gonna decide to get. Frank is gonna call Bert, the owner, and see what he's gonna do to help him out. Frank's like, Bert, we have a problem over here. Now we're gonna go back to the punks. The punks have got their another punk friend called Suicide. He's all crazy too. He's on leather and chains in his nose and everywhere. They have used Suicide for his car. It's a Cadillac, an old beat up Cadillac. They're driving around. And he picks him up and he's like, "Why are you guys using me for gas?" And they start fighting and all this. They start arguing. Spider's in the back seat. They're all packed in the car. Spider talking smack to Suicide that's driving, and he's like, "What the?" He goes back to get Spider, gets him like this while he's supposed to be driving, gets his wheels off the wheel of the car, and I think Tina or somebody gets a hold of the wheel, and they cross railroad tracks while a train's coming. They're very crazy. Of course, they're punks. Um, and they're gonna use them to go find Freddy, or go get Freddy. We go back to Frank and Freddy, and Bert has arrived, and Bert is getting, of course, he's getting after Frank. He's like, I told you a million times to stay away from those damn tanks. And he's like, I could lose my license, my business. Like, cops could get involved. The army can come over here. And it's like, well, there's this other thing. Well, it's like we got the problem of the cadaver, the dead body in there. It's been reanimated by the chemicals. And he's like, well, we can try to, get rid of the body. And then Frank's like, let's do that. And by the way, Frank and Freddy, they look sick because they hit by the chemicals and they're all white. They're not the pale skin. I mean, they're not the skin color we're all supposed to normally be. Bert says, okay. What we're gonna do is, Freddy, go to the door. You're gonna lock it. Frank's like, here's a pickaxe. He gives a pickaxe to hit it with. And Frank's like, I don't want to do it. And then Bert's like, well, you got us into this fighting mess. I'm going to be back here. And Bert had got Freddy. He's like, come on, son, go to the door. And Freddy's scared too. He goes on the count. He goes, I'm going to give you the combination. We're going to let it out, and we're going to get rid of that body. And they're like, he tells them the number, 24 right, 22 6, whatever left. And then Freddy unclicks it slowly. He takes out the lock, and then the cadaver dead body comes with brains. He's supposed to go after Frank that has a pickaxe, but he skips Frank and he goes to Bert that's braced himself against some railings to for all the equipment. It's holding up the equipment. He tackles Bert, and Bert is like, the cadaver's over him. And I want to say Bert and Ernie. No, not Sesame Street. Bert and Freddy. They go take the cadaver, the dead body off of the reanimated dead body off of a, a Bert. They Frank and Freddy get the dead body. The dead body's moving and everything, and they get him by the arms, and then they put him on the face first on the floor. And like, what do we do? And then Freddy says, well, in the movies they hit it in the head to kill it. And then Bert gets the pickaxe, and he hits it like with the sharpness of the axe, the back part, and he goes whap. He goes like this. Right in the back of the head, and he goes, "Did you hit the head? It's still moving. I hit the stupid head." So they hit it. It's still, the feet are still moving for the cadaver, and they're like, "What do we do now?" And he's like, "Wait a minute," and then Bert gets some string. We're gonna tie it up, and we're gonna cut it up. He gets a jigsaw, so they're gonna cut it up and put it in bags. We're gonna go back to the punks. They get there close to the medical supply warehouse. It's like, let's go get them. And then Tina's like, no, we might get them in trouble. And then Scuzz says, well, I'm not gonna go to the park. He's like, we need a place to hang out. And Scuzz, well, I ain't gonna go to the park. The cops there are just gonna kick our asses. And then they're like, we could go in there. And they see a cemetery that's locked up. We got Suicide. He goes into his trunk, gets a hammer, and he breaks open the gate to the cemetery because it's locked up, and then they go play around in there. Now we're gonna go back to Bert, Frank, and Freddy. Bert gets a ladder. He goes up. He climbs up in the warehouse inside. And he says, "Hey, there's a mortuary out there. My friend Ernie's over there. Maybe he can help. He got a cremation furnace, something like that, like an oven that basically cremates people, burns them." And Frank's like, "Can you trust them?" He's like, "I don't know. I've known them for a while." So it's like, let's go over there. They're like, okay. And now the dead body, they have got the jigsaw and cut it into pieces, and they put each piece into plastic bags, and they're gonna put it on some gurney stretcher kind of deal. We're gonna go back to the punks. It's getting darker, and they're playing around in the graveyard. One of the punks, Chuck, he's dressed in a suit. It's kind of weird. And a tie, but he's into the punk scene, and he has a radio. He plays a radio. While it gets darker, Trash's girl's getting crazy. She's a total punk. She starts taking off her clothes and starts dancing on some kind of big tombstone that's sideways. She's dancing on it. She's taking off her clothes. Spider and Suicide, they have flares and they're dancing around and stuff like that. And it's like that song, "Tonight, gonna make things right," something like that. And they're drinking beers out there. A little bit earlier than that, it was still dark, but Casey says, "I think that's Freddy over there." He sees some guys carrying this stretcher. And Chuck tells Casey, "That is definitely not Freddy." Well, could you tell? Why would Freddy be walking into taking a stretcher to a mortuary? Because he knows that he works in a medical supply warehouse. So now we're getting to them. Ernie, Freddie, and Frank. They go into the mortuary, and now we see this older man, gentleman. He's about the same age as Bert, 50 to 55, and 55 to 60 wouldn't be crazy talk. And it's Ernie. Ernie's working on a dead body. The stomach's all up, whatever. He has headphones on. He's hearing some kind of patriot American music, and I think he has a pipe in his mouth. He's smoking, and Bert just walks in. He walks in. Ernie has the earphones, so he doesn't hearing the music, so he doesn't hear Bert. And but he sees, but Ernie sees Bert take out his gun and points, takes out his gun and points it at at Ernie points it. Ernie points his gun at Bert and almost shoots him. And he's like, "Be careful!" Like, no, no. And Bert's like, "Sorry," and he talks to Ernie and stuff like that. He's like, "I got a problem." And he goes, "I got like." He makes a lie up because he can't tell him the truth because he's a freak out, or freak out Ernie. Ernie's not gonna believe him about the body parts they have in the bag. And he's like, they calls them they're wild weasels. And then he goes, "Let me show you." And then Ernie's like, "Nobody else could be here, Bert." And Frank and Freddie bring in with a stretcher. They bring in the dead body parts. And Ernie's like, "You know what? These are weasels, whatever. They're moving around. He sees them moving around. Just take them to the pound, whatever." And he's like, "No, we need to use your furnace cremator thingy, the oven, human oven, to burn parts." And he's like, "No, let's just take him outside and I'll kill him." He's like, "I don't understand." And he's like, "Bert, can I trust you and all that stuff?" And he goes, "If you promise not to tell anybody if I tell you." He's like, "Okay, fine." And then I'm gonna show. It's not rapid weasels. And he's like, "What?" And then they take out one of the bags, and it's an arm from the dead body. They open. We're gonna show you, and then the arm is like moving and stuff. Ernie's eyes pop open. He's afraid, and the hand has now gotten a hold of Ernie's leg. And Ernie's like, "Get it off me! Get it off me!" And it rips part of his pant. He's wearing some red pants, and it rips part of it off. And they finally get a hold of the hand. They put it back in the trash bag. Ernie's still freaked out. Then Ernie's waiting a while. He gets like scissors. He cuts his pen off, like at least to the knee, to get that out of the way. It gets all stringy and stuff. And then Ernie's like, "What do I get if I let you use it?" Bert's like, "Whatever you want." And then Ernie's like, "Okay, I want a favor, big favor." And then when I'm ready, I'll tell you what the favor is. Bert says, "Okay," and then Ernie's like, "Okay, let's take care of your problem." He takes him to where the cremation machine is, furnace is, and Bert says, "Okay, Freddie and Frank." While Ernie's setting up the oven, the furnace, cremator. I don't know what to call it, man. You could call this bunch of things. I looked it up. Ernie is setting it up the oven. We're just gonna call it the oven furnace. And Bert says, "Okay, Frank, Freddie, this is your mess. You start getting those body parts. You put it up there. You put it. There's a thing that's gonna like a roll of pins, or it's a roll thing like a table that's gonna take stuff into the furnace cremator." He tells Freddie and Frank, "It's your mess. We'll start throwing those body parts up there." They get the body parts wrapped in the bag, and they throw it in there. And Bert's like, "I don't want any bone left." And then Ernie's like, "The bone's not a problem. The problem is the heart is the strongest muscle." They're like, well, I don't want to leave anything. And then Ernie goes, well, we just turn it up higher. So he turns it up higher. So they throw all the body parts in, and it goes through that platforming thing. It's like at the grocery store where the table starts moving. It's like that. It moves the body parts in. It starts burning up the body parts in there with inside the bags, and then you just see like from the furnace the smoke going up into the sky. There's a chimney and the smoke goes up, and then now it's gonna start to rain. It goes into the smoke, starts raining. So with the chemicals from the cadaver are gonna be in the rain, and they're gonna go down, and it starts raining, and some of the undead are starting to wake up. Now we go back with Frank, Freddy, Ernie, and Bert. Wow, I got that. I got them all there. Frank, they're like, okay, let's get out of here. Frank runs outside, or he's running out. He needs to vomit. And Bert's like, we're gonna have to call the an ambulance or something. We're taking the hospital. We're like, no, they just had to call an ambulance. So they call an ambulance, and paramedics come. And Ernie's the one that calls. He says, come through the back way. Paramedics get there, and they start checking on Bert and Ernie. Bert and Ernie are now in the main room. Not the living room, but a main room, the one that Ernie works in. They start checking Frank and Freddy. And they say they have no blood pressure, no pulse, and then Freddy's with a thermometer in her mouth, and Frank too, and they got blankets on the sofa. And they're like, what do you mean no blood pressure, no pulse? And they the paramedics go to a side, and they start talking about them. And they say, and Freddy's saying like, what are y'all saying? What are y'all saying? He's very concerned. They're scared, and they're sick, and they're turning really, really gray and stuff like that. And now we're gonna go to the punks. Now that it started raining, they're starting to run, and they're like, let's go to the medical. Tina had decided earlier that she was gonna go look for Freddy at the medical supply warehouse, and she has run into some trouble. She goes to the basement, goes look for Freddy in there, and there's nobody there because they're all at the mortuary. And there's the tar man we were looking for earlier. There was a dead body in the barrel. Remember the very beginning? He's out, and he's going after. And Tina sees tar man zombie. We're gonna call him that because he's full of tar. She saw him, and she ran into a closet in the basement. Tar man's after her. He gets some kind of pulley, he attaches it, and it's attached to a chain. The chain he attaches to the closet. Now he's pulling on this pulley that has like a spin lever thingy like this, and it's breaking down the door. And the punks have all decided to go with Tina to go to look for her in the medical supply warehouse. It's raining. They go in there. And they go down to the basement downstairs, and then the zombie, I will also call him zombies besides the undead. He already opened up the closet thing, opens it, and at the same time he opens it, he's behind a curtain, and Suicide, they have all gone to the basement. Suicide's the one who opens the curtain. He goes, what the? He opens the curtain, see what's going on. Tarman surprises, and Tarman gets Suicide and starts biting on his head and eating his brains, and he takes him to the floor. He starts eating the brains, and he's like on the floor. The group steps back towards the stairs, and he says, more brains. And Spider throws a can and hits Tarman. I forgot to mention they were in the car earlier, but the car didn't want to start. But now they've killed Suicide going to the medical supply warehouse. They've gotten Tina, and they all run out. They they ran out from the medical supply warehouse. Now they're gonna run back to the graveyard. Why, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get to the mortuary. And when they run into it's raining with all the chemicals in it, chemical rain. Uh, they get to the graveyard and they're on this huge. They're standing on this huge headstone, like or on the side of it, and they're like, when I think it's Tina, she goes, "Look, look," and it says, "We're gonna party," and there's a skull that pops up. The skull pops up, and opens his eyes, and he goes, "We're gonna party. It's party time." All the dead start rising from their tombstone. Most of them, like most of them, are coming up now, and Spider, Tina, and Scuzz run one way, and Casey and Chuck run the other way, and Trash goes is starting to run, but she falls into a puddle. There's a lot of big puddles, and the dead eat her up. They start. She falls down on her knees. She's like looking at her makeup and everything, and then the dead eat her up. They get her brains. They take her down. Tina running with Spider and Scuzz. Tina had fallen actually. She was abandoned too, or almost abandoned. She falls into a big pool of water and mud. She falls face first. She picks her hands up like this. She's drenched. Her hair is all down. I love that part. It's really cool. Scuzz and Spider pick her up by the arms and they take her and they start running towards the mortuary. And when Trash got eaten by those zombies, she had said earlier, which I didn't mention, she had said, "My dream is to get." When everything was okay, she's like, "My dream is to get eaten by a bunch of old men," and that she got her dream come true. Now she's eating. Uh, Now we're gonna get with Frank, Ernie, Bert, and um, Frank, Freddie, Bert, and Ernie. It is Bert and Ernie. Um, Ernie here in the mortuary. Ernie hears this noise, and there's people banging at the front door. Ernie goes to open the door. She sees Spider, Scuzz, and Tina, and he opens the door with a gun, and they're all yelling. And Spider's like, "There's a bunch of dead people coming out from the grave. Dead people." He's like, "What? Dead people?" And then Ernie's all scared. He's like, "Are y'all in PCP?" Holding his gun to him. Good thing he always carries a gun. He's like, "What are y'all talking about?" And then Gus goes, "Shut up and just listen, man." He hears a whole bunch of screaming and yelling outside, which is the undead. He brings them inside. And now we're gonna get to the paramedics. They heard the screaming, whatever, but are like, "Oh, they don't know what's going on." So they say, "We're gonna have to, take these guys in the ambulance to the hospital." So they're like, "Well, we're gonna go to the ambulance outside and go get a stretcher, okay?" Like, okay, they go outside. The paramedics go. One of the paramedics, he gets into joined himself in the ambulance. I don't know how he got there. Turns on the light. There's a whole bunch of undead in front of the ambulance. He's like, "Whoa!" And then they open the doors. They eat his brains. They get him out. They eat his brains. Then the guy going in the back and get the gurney. The paramedic going in the back of the ambulance get the gurney. He comes out and there's a zombie like, "Argh!" And then takes him. And then the undead come out and they eat his brains like paramedic in the back. Ernie's like, "That's what's going on." He goes outside. He takes a raincoat. It's a little bit, maybe moments later. He goes and he actually makes it to the ambulance. He opens the door and then there's like an undead zombie eating one of the paramedics' brain, and Ernie's like, "Whoa!" And then Ernie takes out his gun and he shoots the midget zombie. Midget zombie falls down on his chest, his stomach. He gets up, and then the midget starts running after Ernie. It looks really funny. You gotta see it. He runs after Ernie, and Ernie runs back into the mortuary, the back way. Now Ernie is now he sees the undead. Now he's convinced. Now he's scared. He tells them all the dead people are undead have risen. We gotta call the police. And then he goes to his office and he goes, he making a call. He's dead. And then he closes the window, and then they hear the undead. They're trying to come to the front door, which Scuzz and Tina and Spider came out through. Or came through. The undead have their arms coming through the windows, and there's the main door, has two windows on the side, and the dead are they're sticking their hands in and everything. I love this part. This is what makes the movie my favorite part. Ernie starts running in. He goes, ah! Psh, psh. He shoots at the front door. They start getting boards, and they start getting, first they get weapons, whatever they can. They start hitting the hands. They get pipes or whatever they have, and they start chopping at the windows, trying to hit the arms, and then they're like, where's some boards and nails? They get boards and nails, and they're chopping off dead arms or whatever off the windows. They're boarding up stuff, hammer, get nails, hammer. They start they put this thing in front of the window, this big dresser thingy. They nail it to it. They start hammering the windows and the door, and they stop the dead for right now. They goes in, and then somebody yells, the windows in the chapel. They go back in the chapel, same thing. Dead arms are trying to get inside. They get whatever they can. They get whatever they can find, whatever axes, any type of tools, and they start hitting the arms again. Boom, boom, boom. They start cutting off arms. Arms start falling off. While they're cutting them, they start boarding everything. They show them still hammering, whatever. They're like, how many windows do you have? No more windows. We have everything covered. And then they start talking about, hey, how did the undead come about? And Scuzz puts a knife at Bird. He's like, you better start. Oh yeah, Bird says, I don't have to tell you anything. And then Scuzz takes out his knife, and Spider's there. He's like, we think you should. And then Bart tells him, I don't know, we're at the medical supply warehouse, and then these two let chemicals out there, and like they let the chemical out. How do they go out of the graveyard? We don't. I'm like, I don't know. Bart's like, I don't know. Tina goes with. They just don't know. They don't know anything right now. Tina goes with Freddy. She finally reunites with Freddy. She sees Freddy's all sick and everything. She sees Frank sick. And then they start looking at Freddy's back. As Ernie says rigor mortis has gotten Freddy's back where the blood is going all the way up. And so they get to rest for a little bit. But now the dead are coming through. They're coming back to the front door. Scuzz, he's when the front door, the dead, you can see them. They're like almost bringing the door down, and Scuzz gets there, and he's the first one to try to, they get another board, whatever. He picks it up. They get and he's trying to keep the dead out with a hammer and everything. But there's this undead woman, very old. She's all bones and hardly any meat on her. She gets Scuzz. She's able to get inside. She starts biting on Scuzz's brain. Somebody gets a weapon and chops off the old lady's undead, like from the torso up. So they cut her from like the stomach up. Ernie gets his pick. and gets the old lady and like this, and then takes her to a medical exam table and she ties her up. And then Bert's after him like, "What are you doing, Ernie? What are you doing?" It's cause is dead on the floor. And and they leave Scuzz dead on the floor. Ernie and a couple of others are seeing what's going on. She starts questioning the old lady zombie. He says, "Why?" The ladies just keep saying brains, brains. And she's like, "What do you like to eat, people?" And then the undead lady says, "Not people, brains." And then she goes, "Why do you eat it? Why do you eat the brains?" And she's like, "Because of the pain of being dead. I can feel myself rotten." And then Spider says, "Let's go to the other room. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you soon." And he's like, "How are we gonna kill these things?" And then Ernie says, "I have this bottle of acid, whatever. We can burn them, whatever." And he's like, "Oh, how are we gonna burn all of those things? There's too many of them." He's like, "You don't. They're gonna keep going after you, after you, after you." And then the undead lady's like, "Bang, bang, going free." And then and then Spider gets like some kind of knife or tool. It's like he said to stop it. "I'm gonna stop it." And they're like, "No, don't do that, do it." They tell him. Either already tell them, they're like, "No, no, stop." At one point, um, Spider's getting out of control, and Ernie starts slapping him around his face. Um, then they hear another paramedic come in, another ambulance come in, and they're looking out of the door, the main room, one of the main rooms where Ernie works. The door has a slide-in thing. It's like a rectangle thing you can slide up and see. And they see not more paramedics come. Paramedics start walking to the door, and they're like, "No, go back, go back." And then the undead, all the zombies, they drop the paramedics and start, two of them, they drop them in the street, and they start eating them. um, you got a part, um, Casey and Chuck, when they had reached the medical supply, they had reached the medical supply warehouse. They went to, when all the zombies came out, they they got into the office, and then Casey did get to the phone. She goes, "Operator gave me the police, but no, the window was open. A zombie jumps in. He jumps on the desk, gets the phone, and throws it." And and Casey and Chuck run out of the room. They close the door, and then Chuck dumps a cabinet on the bottom so the zombie get on. He's like, "Casey gave me hammer and nails. We assume that they're still alive, so we assume that they did board up that door so that zombie won't come out." And now we got Chuck and Casey. Not a lot of the commotion has stopped. They're sitting down somewhere, and Chuck's like, "You think we're gonna get help? You think the police are gonna help us?" And Casey's like, "I don't know, but they better. I hope so, man." And then Casey looks at Chuck and says, "Chuck, I never liked you, but I'm really scared. Hold me." Chuck holds her. Now we're gonna get back with a group back at the mortuary. Um, they start the group at the mortuary. Spider, Chuck, and all them. I'm sorry, Spider and Bert and Ernie and them. They're looking at Frank and Freddy, and they're getting worse and worse. They're just moving like this, like they can barely talk. Tina's there, still holding Freddy, and they say, "You know what? We need to put Frank and Freddy. Ernie, where can we put them where we can hold them, where they won't hurt anybody?" And then Ernie's like, the it's like the chapel." Wow, I'm lucky I remember the name of the chapel. And they're like, okay. But Tina's like, I have to go with Freddie. And she's like, you sure? We have to lock it up. And they're like, yeah. She's like, Bird's like, yeah, they have to lock it up. Tina's like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Freddie. So they take Frank and Freddie. They have to carry them, and Frank and Freddie are yelling in pain. Every movement hurts them, especially when they're moved. They move to the chapel, and Tina's still attending to Freddie. They put him in there, and they lock up the chapel. Um, now now I got a police car coming to the outside in a car. It's a squad. Well, it's two police officers. They come. They hear the siren. Um, the group go. The rest of them. Ernie, Bert, and Spider go to that square thing and look out the door with little window thingy to peek out, and they see the officers. And there's two officers, and they're looking around. They leave the police car with the motor running. They have their guns, and one of the police officers sees that there's a paramedic with the brains coming out. And then the zombies come out, and the police are like, "Stop! Hold it!" They start shooting. They start shooting the zombies to no avail. They're taken down, and they're eaten. Their brains are taken out. And then you get a paramedic going to the police car saying, "Send more cops." And yeah, Bert's like, everybody that comes in here gets swallowed up. We go back to the chapel, and Tina's still holding Freddy. Frank's there fidgeting. And then Freddy's like talking, whispering, She's like, "I want fresh brains." Freddy attacks Tina. Tina is able to run away a little bit, and then Freddy's running after her over some benches in the chapel. She gets like some pole. She hits Freddy like this, boom, and then Freddy goes flying back into the benches. Um, Bert, Spider, and Ernie, they have heard this, and they bust in the door, see what's going on, and then they see what's scary because you don't see nothing the benches, and you see Freddy's head just pop up like this. His eyes are all red. He's obviously the undead now. He's zombied up, and he's salivating white from his mouth. It's very scary, and he runs, and somebody takes a swing of him. Thing is like Bird or something swings at him, and then he's about to bite Bird in the back of the head. And Ernie has his little. They hit him with a hammer. Not, they hit him with a hammer, like in the head. Boom, boom, and he's on the floor. They hit him again. Boom, he falls face first, and then he gets back up, and then Ernie has that jar of acid. It feels like that. And then the acid gets on Freddy's face like, and then they one of them, I think Spider carries Tina, and he carries her out of the door, and then they get to the outside of the chapel. Ernie starts hammering a bench to the doors of the chapel. Everybody's out already, and he gets a messed up ankle. Um, yeah, Ernie messes up his ankle, and then they take him to the room, and then that's a time where Spider's like, "Oh no, Freddy's oh," and I think Ernie slaps him or something, and that is not Ernie. And then that thing saying, "Bring, bring, bring, bring." That zombie lady's still there or something. Um, Now we're gonna have a lot of stuff going on. There's gonna be a police helicopter up in the sky, and then you got these. I don't know, it's like 5 or 6 police cars They come down the street of the graveyard, and then they all open the doors at the same time, and then all the zombies attack them. When they open the doors, all the zombies from both sides like, "Brains!" And the cars are here, and they attack them all. And then there was a police officer, a zombie police officer there that they had turned. He had a like a flashlight thingy to lead them in. And when they attacked all the go brains, they attacked all the the row of cars of police officers. He went running to join the action. He throws a light. It's funny stuff. You can see there they're eating everything. You can see from the police helicopter's perspective, it has a light shining because it's nighttime. And the police thing is saying like, if you willing to, because I know there's a bunch of unfriendlies, the undead there. They're like, if you want to, you can surrender yourself. um, then we got now we have left is Spider, Bert, Ernie, and Tina, and they're like the first police car that came in with two troopers that they ate the brains. They left the car running. Remember, they left the motor engine running. And Spider and Bert are like, let's take that car. We'll take them by surprise. Okay, and Spider goes, I'm driving. And then Bert goes, no, I'm driving. And then Spider's like, F you. And then they get, Bert tells Ernie and Tina, get Tina, get at the door, open the door when we tell you, and then close it shut as soon as we leave. So Spider and Bert get their weapons, swinging weapons. I think one of them has a hammer, one has a pipe or something like that. So they're on the count of three. They tell Ernie and Tina get in the door. 1, 2, 3. They open it, and Spider and Bert go out with their weapons, and they start swinging. I see Spider hitting one of the undead in the stomach. The undead goes up. Ugh. They're walking outside, and then they swing their way out, and they break free. And Spider and Bert, they run to the car. Bert goes to drive the police car. They drive towards the mortuary, and then all the zombies jump in the car, and they're like, we need to get out of here. And then Bert goes backwards, and they pile up on the police car. Bert goes backwards, and then some of the undead follow the car when he goes backwards. And then he drives out, and he's gonna try to drive it. He breaks through the gate, through the front gate. Oh, by the way, Trash is a zombie too, but she's not there yet. When he drives out, there's zombies that jump out of the way. He drives to the front gate of the cemetery, breaks out, and then when he breaks out, he goes to the right. And then there's a horde of undead coming, and they're running towards the car. He has to reverse and then turn this way and go that way, so he can't escape. But he can drive to the medical supply warehouse. So he drives over there, and he drives to the medical supply warehouse. And good thing that Trash and Chuck are near the door. They open the door, and they set the police car on fire. They crashed somewhere near the door. Chuck and Casey let Bert and Spider get in, and they're like, we can use another car. And then some zombies are on top of the car, and it blows up. And it goes, not anymore. They blew up the other car too. So Bert, so that group, well, We're gonna go back to the mortuary where there's Frank and Tina. I'm sorry, Ernie and Tina. Frank, for some reason, zombified, has some mental capacity in his brain. He goes to the cremator. He burns himself up. He goes up. Um, Freddy, as he's blinded and he's all red from his eyes. It looks disgusting. He breaks out of the chapel blinded, and supposedly he can smell Tina. And he goes into that room where Bert and Tina are at, but Bert and Tina have climbed up some stairs. They drop the ladder and they go up into uh, to an attic, and they nail down the attic with nails and stuff like that. Now we're gonna go back to Bert. We're gonna go back to the medical supply warehouse where it's Chuck, Bert, Spider, and Casey. Bert says we can use a phone to call for help in the office. Chuck says no, there's a monster in there, Mister. And Spider had told me he was the owner of the place. And he goes, okay, now the basement. And then Chuck's like, the basement? There's something down there in the basement. Spider's like, yeah, one of those things that's all big, black, and slimy. And then Bert's like, I don't care, we're gonna have to do something. He goes, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna knock its block off. He gets a bat. Back to Casey and Ernie stuck in the attic. Tina can hear. Tina can hear Freddy, zombie Freddy, undead Freddy, saying, "I could eat your brains. I can smell you. You made me hurt my arm. You made me hurt my arm. I don't care. I love you, Tina." And Tina's like, go away." Ernie has his gun ready to shoot Tina and him. It looks like they're gonna do suicide. They're not gonna they want to be turned to the undead. And then Freddy has gotten the ladder blinded and is hitting the attic door open, and the nails are coming up. Now we go back to the medical supply warehouse, and they're all set up. Bert has a baseball bat, and they have weapons. They're gonna let Tarman out so they can get to the phone in the basement. They're like, open the door. One of them opens the door. Tarman comes out. Ooh. Chuck trips him with one leg, and then Bert swings his bat at Tarman and knocks the head off. They trip him and he falls. They go down the basement and they get to the phone. Bert calls, and there's an operator who says, we're gonna hook you up to a chief of police that's at the scene now. Now there's a police checkpoint. There's several police officers. They're in riot gear, and chief police is talking like outside a van or something. And and then Bert says, hello, we need help. And then the chief goes, I've lost a dozen men to I don't know what I'm not sending more men till somebody tells me what the hell's going on here. Bert says they're dead and they'll eat you, and then you come back and something like that. And then the chief of police says, wait, there's a lot of commotion going on. The police are in riot gear. They see the undead coming from the graveyard and from the side street. There are a whole bunch of them. A horde of zombies are coming. So they're like, stop. And then the police start shooting. They start shooting at the undead. The undead start attacking the police officers. There's one police officer that has this big shotgun. And he shoots it, misses. The dead take him down on top of the police car. They're gonna eat him. There's police officers that take the helmet off, and the undead take off their helmet and they start eating them. There's one police officer tries to help another police officer with an undead on him. He gets the other police officer trying to help him, gets the head comes off, and so they're screwed. Zombie trash, undead trash comes in. She goes on to that where the door is open for the chief of police. She opens up her big mouth, takes off his cap, and she bites on him, and the other undead gets on the police chief. So they are all taken. The checkpoint is completely wiped out by the undead zombies. Now we get to Bert. He shows the phone to the rest of the group. Casey, Chuck, and Spider like hear this and hear a bunch of screaming and all that. Now Bert looks at the drum. There's a number on it to the army drum barrel, and he calls it. And Casey's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Shh." He calls and he calls the number, and he says, "Let me talk to whoever's in charge, whatever." And then they go, "That'd be the army person I was talking to." Operator says, "That'll be Glover, Colonel Glover." They go to Colonel Glover's house. The colonel that showed up in the very beginning at his house, his resident. The phone rings, wakes up Colonel Glover and his wife. It is Colonel Glover, and then he starts asking Bert questions. And then Colonel Glover's, "How many acres is there? Why did you notify us before?" It doesn't say what Bert's saying. He's like, "Okay." So Colonel Glover goes. He says, "I'm going to put you on the phone with somebody else. They're going to explain to you the situation, other army personnel." Colonel Glover goes downstairs. He does a printout. He calls a higher up. I think it's a general. And then we go back to Bert and the gang. And he says, Bert tells Casey, Spider, and Chuck, they telling me they have some plan. And then Spider goes, "Plan? What plan?" Colonel Glover went down, and he put out some information, made a call to higher up, like I was telling you. Then he gets a hold of this army personnel with this big gun out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where. And he goes, he tells, it's a army soldier. And he says, good morning to you, sir. Okay, we're gonna do this." And they give him a code. Oscar, hot dog, whatever, Meyer 3261, whatever, range 5678. And okay, fire. And they fire like an atomic, like a nuclear missile. And it shoots out. And then you see Bert and his groups, Bert and Chuck and Spider and Casey looking up. They're like, listen to hear like a whistling noise. Then you see the zombie trash with all the zombies looking up like this. And then the missile hits their area where the graveyard is. It hits everything. And it destroys a lot of acres, including the graveyard, especially that's the target. Everything is destroyed. And then you see Colonel Glover, he's talking to, looks like the president, and he goes, "Okay, sir, it looks like people are complaining of minor conditions of rain, but everything seems okay. The rain will just wash away." And he's like, goodbye, sir, goodbye." And at the end it shows the skull coming out when most of the dead came out. "We're gonna party," the song comes out. "We're gonna party, it's party." Then the skull pops out with the eyes open like it did when the undead came out. And then the credits come out and just show scenes of the movie. Now, this is my favorite movie of all time. I love this movie. I freaking love this movie. It's my favorite movie. Horror comes first for comedy, romance, all that. That's just me, action. If you're a zombie fan, and maybe you're not, because not to offend anybody here, but true zombie fans have already seen this movie. If you have not seen this movie, you gotta see. You like zombies, you need to watch this movie. This movie, not too many movies terrify me nowadays, but this movie terrified me to this day. It terrifies me, even with the quirkiness. And I'll explain why. Because I used to, especially when I was young, I have zombie movies. I think I don't have them anymore, but I would have nightmare quirky movies that didn't make any sense or whatever. Well, there's quirky parts in here, but it's a really good part. I mean, it's a very good zombie flick. I am a fan of running zombies because walking zombies can be kind of boring. You know, they're harder for you to catch if they're walking slow. These run fast and they're strong and they're powerful. They can smell you everything. I love the if you don't mind a aspect. There's punks in here that battle the zombies. I mean, it just has so many good parts. This review, it took me a long time to do it because movies that have horror movies that have so many good parts and it's hard for me to do because I want to do all the hard parts. And I'm kind of sickly and I can't remember stuff sometimes. So it takes me a while to go, prepare to do a movie review like this. I absolutely love this movie. And I'll never get tired of saying, if you have not seen this zombie flick and you're a zombie fan, you need to see this. You need to see this. Amen. Number one. Number one movie of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Horror always comes first to me because I'm a person of action. I love action stuff. So go check it out. It's just awesome, man. It's just an awesome movie. It's about survival, zombies, running zombies. I am a big fan of zombies coming out of the grave and being in the graveyard, stuffing out and coming out. All right, I could babble about this, so I'm gonna stop. This will end my review of Return of the Living Dead. If you, I keep forgetting, but I need to say this: if you like my content and you like my movie reviews, don't. If you like it, you don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And get bigger and better. Good things are coming. So this ends my movie review of Return of the Living Dead, my favorite movie of all time. I hope you watched. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time doing it. And you like my content, subscribe. And also, I'll leave you with this. The world will never be a perfect place, but we can all make it better. Till next time, my name's Alberto, aka Destroyer 48. Take care. I love you. Hope you had fun. Till next time. Bye.